Good evening, friends, and first of all, welcome to Between the Lines. Let me start with the vote of thanks. So, thank you for taking time out on a Thursday evening this time, and hope the next 90 odd minutes are going to be worth your time. For, as always, new faces every time, so quick introduction. My name is Advait Kurlekar. My colleague here is Eklavya Malhotra. We represent a consulting company called Apuhan Management Consultants. And for those who are coming for the first time, we've been organizing Between the Lines sessions each month. Like all of you know now, it's a free and open for all session. Every month we identify a book that is a good book to read and typically has got recently published. And as people who have been here many times, you know, Eklavya does a fantastic summary of the book. We all assume he's read the book, which gives him that power to do the summary. There have been occasions we've been lucky to have the authors in the room, like today, and most of the times when the author is in the room, it's just a one-on-one discussion. Otherwise, when the author is not in the room, we invite people from the industry, and I moderate a panel discussion of the topics emanating from the book. So that is the kind of format. Between Eklavya's summary and me formally introducing our guest today and calling him on stage, as always, there's a small fun quiz just to check out that you're not sleeping and to check your general knowledge about today's topic, which is the retail industry. And for people who are not for people, for the first person to answer the question, there are small chocolates, as you know. So with this, let me hand over the proceedings to Eklavya for his summary. For people who are interested in the statistics, this is our session number 117. So we've been doing this for some time. Thank you. So over to you, Eklavya.
Good evening, everyone. I was just telling Mr. Nagesh also a little while earlier when we were introduced about the fact that I had actually reached out to him way back, nearly almost about 17, 18 years ago, when I was just about to complete my MBA and I wanted to apply to Shopper Stop. And unfortunately, that email is still unrequited. So I was hoping to bring a printout of that today and take his formal acceptance on that. But nevertheless, one of the things, which stood out for me, as I'm sure a lot of students over here also are pursuing their masters. So I was studying retail management. That was my area of specialization. And while it was filled with a lot of practical learnings and there was a decent amount of theory also, one of the grating things always used to be that majority of examples used to be from the Western world. And this was especially true whenever we would talk about customer service. So the standard cliched examples of Nordstrom always used to crop up, and we would always, dissect these case studies and these brilliant anecdotes about how customer service was held in such high regard, and it was also treated in a very sacrosanct manner by the retailers of the US and the Europe. So all of this would always lead to that one perplexing question that don't we have anything noteworthy here in India to speak about? And more often than not, the professors would respond by saying that frankly, in India, retail still being a sunrise sector of sorts, there's only Shopper Stop really to talk about, but unfortunately, we don't have anything documented. So whatever there is basically hearsay, and most of it is experiential and anecdotal. So there always used to be this sort of a gaping hole when we talked about customer service in the Indian retail context and not having anybody to really look up to. So we're quite fortunate now that, albeit a bit too late, but nevertheless, at least now we have a documented reference point so that never again will that question go unanswered. What about customer service in the Indian retail sector? Do we have any examples that we can cite? Do we have anything which is as stellar as what the Western world has laid down as the gauntlet? And Shopper Stop has always been the first and unfortunately even the last word when it comes to citing examples of service which goes beyond the normal transaction of a retail environment. And all of this has been detailed out in succinct details by Nagesh in this book, which again, like I mentioned, we are very fortunate that he's agreed to come down and spend time with us over here today, because honestly this was a dream come true for both Advait and myself. Now, coming to the context of the book, imagine when you start reading a book about the retail sector. Retail sector, it's not exactly held in high regard and esteem even today. And the first lines that confront you are lines, or basically a Hindi verse, which you're explained later on is the anthem of this particular retail chain, Shopper Stop, where the lyrics have been penned by Gulzar Saab, the vocals by Sonu Nigam, and the music has been provided by Ram Sampath. That's when you realize that, okay, these guys really take service a tad too seriously. Service is not just something that they're providing lip service to. An organization which believes in exhorting its employees through the power of music, through the power of chanting, to excel or go beyond excellence, all towards that single-minded goal of ensuring that customers go back more than satisfied. That has been the one compelling virtue which has always drawn us to Shopper Stop over and over again, despite the plethora of options that are available to us today. But none of these options, none of the things that we take for granted were actually there way back in 1991 when Mr. Nagesh, with the support of the Raheja family, launched Shopper Stop at SV Road in Andheri. And there is a beautiful sort of origin story. So if Mr. Nagesh is our superhero in question over here, we also go down his origin story in terms of understanding the kind of background that he came from, which probably in large measure also shaped the way in which he viewed life and also his role in terms of pursuing the dreams, or as he calls it, the wild dreams, which normally you tend to sort of, relegate to imagination, and you honestly don't believe that those will ever get manifested. But the upbringing which he had, which again, I could be a little wrong over here, but one of the things which comes through, which really shines through in the book, is that I'm quite certain that there are certain qualities and traits which Mr. Nagesh has imbibed from his father's very innate sense of service, sense of devotion, of basically being true to what he was supposed to do. I think a lot of those qualities have probably shaped what Mr. Nagesh then basically lent us forward in terms of creating Shopper Stop and the disciplines that he created therein. So all of this, his background, his childhood, his upbringing, his early years where he was enamored by the armed forces and almost took a decision to join the armed forces, and at the very last minute, at his mother's behest, he decided to sort of take a step back, and that's when he got into more conventional programs like what most of us are attuned to. So after having done his education, completed his higher education from BHU and then working in Blowplast for a certain few years, he then found his way basically into retail with Kerona. If any of us remember the footwear company called Kerona way back in the 80s and 90s. So that's where basically he found his calling of sorts, and that's again where that perpetual dream kept coming back to him, that someday he wants to run a 50,000 square feet store, a departmental store, and that was something which he or any one of us over here in India could have never imagined at that time. So just to put things in context, I think one of the largest stores, so I hail from Delhi, and I think we had a store called Big Joe's, like which my parents, my grandparents used to swear by. And I think that was probably not more than 15,000 square feet. And for us, in North India at least, that was like as huge as it can get. Like an outing to Big Joe's was the stuff which childhood dreams are made of. And here was Nagesh thinking about setting up and running a 50,000 square feet departmental store. I think it would be interesting if we can perhaps share why this magical number of 50,000. But lo and behold, he actually did manage to manifest it when, out of the blue, his own senior from Kerona calls him up and mentions to him that there are murmurs in the market that the Raheja family might be opening a departmental store to match up to international standards, and they're looking out for somebody who's going to run the entire show for them. And it might be that one opportunity which he's been waiting for all his life. And things fell into place, and he found himself as the general manager of what was later known as Shopper Stop. Now, again, it's also remarkable to know that way back, this was probably in 1990, early 91, and today we are here in 2025, some things refuse to change. Despite the passages of time, HR sometimes does not know what to do with new, fresh recruits, as Mr. Nagesh found out when on the first day when he landed up at the Raheja office, after having been formally recruited by Mr. Raheja, who that time was traveling to Boston, and HR doesn't know what to do with him. Nobody has any context who he is, what kind of line of business is he supposed to be sent to. So he was over there sitting with all the other fresh recruits, and he was placed in the construction division. And he was also selling flats for the first couple of months, because this was in the pre-internet, pre-mobile phone era. So there was nobody who could actually call up Mr. Raheja in Boston and validate from him that what do we do with this person, BS Nagesh, who's been sitting in our reception and saying that he's been recruited by you to lead a retail venture. This was unheard of. So some things unfortunately never change, and HR continues to surprise us with those few moments of merrymaking or madness, as you may call it. Then again, the big things start falling into place. So while we might think that this was perhaps a story of, brick by brick, wall by wall, it comes up, but the way Nagesh has retold it in the book, it's anything but that. Mr. Raheja comes back to Bombay, takes him to SV Road, shows him this old 4-screen theatre, which is opposite Radhakrishna restaurant, if some of us are familiar with that area, and tells him that you have 90 days to convert this into a departmental store, and mind you, 90 days in which you cannot alter the structure at all because parts of it is a heritage building. So, and again now, today when we talk about retail, we have teams which are known as projects teams. We've got stalwarts who just come in and out. They have all the store layouts, they have the planograms, they have everything. They know where the gondolas are going, they know where everything is supposed to be kept. They know construction of a store from scratch and how it can be done within the shortest possible time. We're talking about 91 when there's no frame of reference to go by. You say departmental store, people look at you with a bewildered look in their eyes, wondering what kind of language you're using with them. It is in this context that he started to build a team and actually managed to deliver within that 90-day committed period. 90 days, of course, being that they wanted to target the pre-Diwali sale. And that's when India finally got its first departmental store. And even the name, if you think about it, Shoppers Stop, a name which has become so synonymous for all of us, how did it actually come out? So while they got a number of options from their advertising agency, none of those seemed to resonate either with Nagesh or with the Raheja family until they barely had any time to take a decision because they were very close to the launch and all the creatives, the collaterals had to be produced. So they needed to name this venture, this store. And while they were on phone with each other, Mr. Nagesh and Mr. Raheja, Raheja mentioned that his wife has just now suggested that do you want to have something like Stop and Shop, because she was standing that time in Boston in front of a supermarket which was called Stop and Shop. And that's when the two of them basically came up with the name Shopper Stop. So again, it's the unlikeliest of origin stories when you think Shopper Stop, and you tend to imagine how much of consumer research must have gone into it and how many hours must have been spent mulling over the name, getting it validated, focus group discussions, A/B testing. None of that happened. Somewhere in Boston there is a Stop and Shop, which we need to be thankful for providing us with Shopper Stop. And again, Shopper Stop did not start out the way in which we see it today. So initially it was only men's apparels and accessories. They had to take a choice because again this was unheard of. The fact that you can have different categories within the same premises. So they had to go slow within the at least initial few months before they could actually convince people that yes, this is a doable idea. And it is in this regard that again, while the pages paint a very vivid picture, when the actual photographs that you see in the book, when you go through those, when you're glancing at those photographs, I guarantee you, you will feel that itself is worth the price of the book itself. I do not think in today's day and age, we would ever see a departmental store, a shop floor looking the way the men's section is looking like in Shoppers Stop Andheri in 1991. Don't even get me started on the kind of pleats and trousers that they have over there. I fear I might be wearing one of those retro looks only today. But That entire piece, in terms of how they put it together, step by step, is essentially what introduced us to the term which we use so loosely today called modern organized retail. So when we talk about retail, when we talk about modern retail, today we think about central air conditioning, we talk about open spaces, we speak about the seamless segments in terms of shopping. We talk a lot about the fact that you go to a mall or you go to a large store, you're expected to find parking space over there. You kind of expect that there'll be a baggage counter for you to place your belongings while you go inside and enjoy and complete your shopping and whatnot. None of these existed until Shoppers Stop brought them to our shores. So every single thing that I just rattled off, whether it is central air conditioning, parking space, staff entry and exit timings, baggage counters, barcodes, scanners, computerized billing, all of these were first launched in India courtesy Shoppers Stop Andheri. So that's the kind of impact, if you can even try to visualize it right now. But again, as things are wont to be, it was not that the opening of the store was easy by any stretch of imagination. There's a wonderful story in the book which basically relates how there's about 1 or 2 hours left to the launch of the store. There's a puja going on inside, and there are cartons of clothes which are lying on the shop floor, but there are basically no racks of fixtures to hang them on, because trust Bombay traffic to always throw a spanner in your best laid plans. So all those vehicles which were actually carrying the furnitures and fixtures were stuck in traffic, and they still needed a few more hours before they could actually display them. So Nagesh comes up with this brilliant indigenous idea, which many people have since then also adopted, which is basically convince the Pandit ji to prolong the puja ceremony. Whatever mantras were recited that day, they clearly proved quite useful in hindsight. And then again, we talk about retail revolution and we use this term in a very sort of a happenstance manner. But if you really think about it, any revolution, retail or otherwise, as we are finding out today in real sort of timelines, is not exactly overnight. It's about changing processes, one process, one step at a time. And that's where this book really sort of showcases the deep mastery of the subject matter, which obviously Nagesh holds over retail. So it's about a retail revolution which occurs on 3 fronts and simultaneously also in that regard, which is in terms of the vendors, your business partners, your business itself, which is in terms of your business model, the way in which we work, the way in which we behave, the way in which we operate. And lastly, there's a customer revolution also underway. Just to give you a little hint of what I mean by customer revolution, they were located in Andheri. They were getting customers coming in from within the immediate catchment area. What they wanted were customers coming in from the Tony Lokhandwala area. How do you get Lokhandwala customers to the store in Andheri if word of mouth isn't doing it enough for you and you've already exhausted your advertising budgets? Nagesh came up with the idea of having his staff click photographs of the store in its full glory, put them in photo albums, and then the staff, the customer care associates, would actually go house to house, door to door in Lokhandwala. Sometimes they would be denied entry to certain societies, sometimes they would be allowed, and they would go and show people that look at these photographs. There's a store which has opened in the neighborhood in Andheri. Why don't you come and pay us a visit? It's unheard of. It's difficult to imagine that somebody could actually go door to door just asking people to come to a shop and tell them that look at these photographs. So a lot of things that we assume would have just fallen into place, it was not like that. When I talk about vendor revolution, he mentions in the book that he would step out of his office onto the shop floor, or rather into the back office, and he would always notice that there would be somebody or the other from the vendor's side who would be sitting over there to collect their payments. Sometimes they would be sitting for hours at a stretch. Then the accountant would prepare their checks. They would get them signed. They would hand it over to them. The entries would be passed. And there was always a perpetual queue of people who were waiting for payments. And things that we think today are so obvious, they actually came up with this idea, which was the first in the industry, that why not set up a payment cycle? twice a week, designated timings, the checks are kept ready, people just come, they collect them and they leave. 5 minutes in and out of the door, that's it. Or in those days, in the 90s, setting up a vendor portal where the vendor is able to log in, view their inventory balance, view the sale of the previous day, see how much is the pay, what's the payment which is outstanding, when is the next payment cycle due. All of these things they made absolutely transparent, and this is one of the many ways in which they were able to actually overcome the deep skepticism which ran through the industry regarding this particular retail venture. Because needless to add, there were many naysayers. This was simply not done. This was not the way in which retail business was done. To give you another example, which I don't know how many of us would recollect, but back in the day when you would buy a shirt or a pair of trousers, then if you remember, they would come in these individually packed cardboard boxes with the plastic covering inside, and that's how we basically would go and buy clothes from a normal store. That's how the vendors were attuned to delivering the stocks to all these retail formats, these retail stores. And the one thing which used to basically catch Nagesh's eye at the shop floor in the early days was that there were always these individual cardboard boxes just lying around at the end of the day or after the staff had started unpacking them. And that's when he had to again imagine going back to your vendors, and they had about 400 of them way back in 91 as well, convincing them that why can't you just pack all the clothes in single pieces of plastic and put them in a single carton as much as is accommodated and transfer it to us that way, rather than sending us individual cardboard boxes where you also then end up saving 7 to 8 rupees per box. People were simply not used to these things that we now take for granted. Or the fact that, there would always be a shortage of manpower on the shop floor because the customer care associates would have to keep on going to the warehouse because some car, some vehicle would have come which needs to be unloaded because some brand has sent its stocks right now. That's when, again, thanks to his multiple visits to the UK, which I think was rightly regarded as the Mecca of retail back in the day, he basically implemented what is known as the Marks and Spencer milk run, which is you hire a vehicle as the retailer and you basically send it on a daily run to cover all the stock points of different vendors. You collect all the goods and then you distribute them as per your requirements, either to your one standalone store in the city or to multiple stores in the city as per the pre-designated timings. This came like a God-sent thing for the vendors also, because suddenly they were saving money. All of these things, these are the reasons why I say that a revolution was definitely underway, but it's not a revolution the way in which we think that they would have just sort of come in one day, switched on the lights, and that's it. God's gift to mankind. Mumbai is changed forever. You might have noticed that I've been using this term customer care associates quite a few times. Why did this happen? Because Nagesh found that there was one particular boy whose father-in-law, or rather prospective father-in-law, was denying to get his daughter married to him because he felt he's just a salesman. So that's when he decided that we are going to eliminate all designations. Everybody will be called a customer care associate. Nagesh's designation also was CEO and customer care associate, and this percolated across levels. He's written it in the book, and I've also heard this from people who used to work in Shoppers Stop back in the day, that management trainees for the first year would have to do everything right from cleaning toilets to standing outside with the security guard and ushering people in. Housekeeping, facilities management, maintenance work, warehouse, stores, everything you would do for 1 year before you would be allowed to actually go and take up a full-time responsibility on the shop floor. And of course, when we talk about customer care associate, that word was not used lightly. If you go through some of the values which Nagesh had penned down along with the rest of his team, those values, again, you do not come across those values in corporate circles. Can you imagine a company with a value statement which reads that apologize and forgive? Simple yet exceedingly profound value. most of us would not be comfortable accepting it as a corporate value. They lived by it, they embodied it. Or, like one of their values stated, we will not take what is not ours. And there's a beautiful example in the book about a lady who came into the store one day. She tried on a few outfits, didn't purchase anything, left the store. The customer care associate finds out later on that she had left behind her purse, which was filled with wads of cash, in the trial room. He just goes, picks it up, takes it, hands it over to the store manager. Store manager manages to somehow find out that lady's phone number, her residence number, gives her a call, hands it over, and they refuse to accept anything in return. I'm talking about 1991. Things that seem like hygiene today, in 91, this must have been, I'm sure like even Advait will want to touch upon some of these anecdotes and hear it from the proverbial horse's mouth. But this is just one of many stories which we come across in the book, which actually shows that, yeah, these values were not just there on paper. And you know what they did? We often talk about values being on paper. They did that. Like some good consultant must have told them that why don't you create a value book? They did that, but then they took it to a step which is unimaginable. They took their value book all across the country to all of their stores, got every single employee to sign that value book. It was ultimately entered into the Limca Book of India records as having the maximum number of signatories to any singular cause. First stop for you. There are examples aplenty. And this is not just the only sort of Limca record. I think they also held a Limca record for 1,000 makeovers given in a day when they launched the beauty format. And just an aside on the images which I mentioned, which take you sort of, on a trip down memory lane. There's a photograph over there of Nagesh walking the ramp with Shah Rukh Khan on one side, Deepika Padukone on the other side, when they had partnered with Om Shanti Om at the time of that movie's release. And let's just say that if Nagesh hadn't found his calling in retail, modeling would not have been too far behind. There's a reason why he was always known to be so nattily dressed in the world of retail. And again, when we talk about some of the other things which they did, again, there are a lot of fuss. But what's also good about the book is that Nagesh is candid enough to admit that not everything fell into place, not everything went as per plan. So there was, of course, the much talked about, the much written, much discussed JDA implementation setback which Shopper Stop had faced, which again, Nagesh, to his credit, has taken full and complete responsibility for continuing with that decision, even when it was very clear that this was perhaps they had bitten off a little more than they could chew. I give you some numbers. A company with a top line of 100 crores decides to invest 12 crore in an ERP package. Not too many companies would have that kind of foresight even today. Or again, just prior to Y2K, at the turn of the millennium, when they had launched shopperstoponline.com, but then within a couple of months, they disbanded and they had to shut down their website, which again, he's humble enough to admit in the book that maybe that was a decision that they could have lived with a little longer to see through that e-commerce boom, which of course later on took place. And there are many other things also, like inventory pile-ups or some very sort of mega events that they thought will go very well, but ultimately did not yield the desired outcomes. All of that has been very well documented. So it gives you both the sides of the story that yes, Shopper Stop today is a success as we know it, but they definitely had their moments also when it seemed like the script was not going to end the way it did for Nagesh. And in all of this, there's one thing which as a reader, you would also definitely think about is that imagine the business family which has supported him through all of this. So I think as much as Nagesh is always regarded as the face, or in some cases even as the founder of Shopper Stop, but there was a whole team, there was an army of champions behind him who was treated to ice creams by Nagesh if they achieved their target. So the other good thing which Shopper Stop did for the country was increase the ice cream retail sales, because the way in which he would incentivize his team, and I guess everybody had a sweet tooth in the team, is that if they achieved their daily target, he would treat them to ice cream. The last bill that he signed upon his departure as the managing director of the company in 2009 was a 3.5 lakh rupees bill for the ice cream vendor. I'm sure that person's business would have really gone down after Nagesh's exit. But you know how seriously they take target setting? The first store manager, which was a woman incidentally, again, full kudos to them. One day Nagesh gets a call from the security guard saying that Madam is refusing to close the store because she's saying the target has not been achieved yet. Perplexed, he had to put her on the phone, and finally he managed to convince her that bill a shirt in my name using my card, achieve your target, but for heaven's sake, close the store now. So again, there are many such anecdotes, and some of the most brilliant marketing ideas, or rather I should say some of the best marketing ideas when your budgets have run out and yet you still have to continue doing marketing. So do you know why Shoppers Stop used to have those iconic black and white creatives in all of their advertisements? Yes, one reason was aesthetically it looks very elegant, very stylish, and plus it saves money also if you're not putting color advertisements, because that's how they chanced upon the idea that if we keep putting color advertisements, it's going to cost us a lot more, so might as well do it in two color, black and white. Or the original Shoppers Stop logo, if any of us remember, which used to be that oval shaped logo, which was actually supposed to be a seal of trust, mutual trust between the customer, the vendors, and the retailer themselves. And there were some brilliant marketing gimmicks, if I can use that term flippantly. One of my favorite things in the book was when he describes how they basically partnered with Jet Airways for, I think, the launch of the store in Bangalore or Hyderabad, one of those two. And at that point of time, they partnered with Jet Airways that for passengers who would be landing into that city where they were opening the next store, they would give out free t-shirts, Shoppers Stop t-shirts, to everybody in the craft, and whoever decided to actually wear them upon arrival would receive a gift voucher at the time of arrivals from Shoppers Stop to come and shop at the new outlet. All of this shows why First Citizen, that iconic loyalty program, again the first of its kind in India, launched way back in '94, today contributes 75% to the sales of Shoppers Stop. So all of this, the entire book essentially is a fitting reminder that retail is not a series of accidents. Rather, it's a series of carefully curated moments where it is one person standing in that 1 square feet of retail space, attending to one customer at a singular point of time, trying to deliver them one moment which can be of misery or it can be of delight. All of that is what retail essentially ends up with. And it often goes unheralded. It often does not make it to the story tales like the tech industry does. But nevertheless, it contributes a lot in terms of the dignity which it provides to all the people who are employed within the sector. And that is what Nagesh's second innings, with basically the launch of his trust, TRRAIN, which works a lot with specially abled people in the retail sector, providing them employment opportunities. So it's a beautiful life story of life lived in quartiles. Education, service to the business community, and now he's gotten into that service to the larger community stage. So this book essentially, again, I cannot recommend it enough as being a must read, simply because some of the things which you will read, it will astound you, it will make you laugh at times, it will also make you wonder, or rather it will make you appreciate whatever you might be going through within your industry today. Nagesh has seen it all, and if he lived to tell the tale, then certainly most of us will also manage to overcome whatever little setbacks we are facing today. So that's the book Serve in a little more than a nutshell, and we will now move on to the main feature of today's session, the one-on-one with Nagesh. But before that, as promised, we have a few questions on retail itself, since that's the theme for today. And as Advait has promised, there will be some chocolates to give out. Incidentally, chocolates reminds me, there was a tailor who they had hired in their first store in Andheri called Wahid Bhai. The store manager, that same lady, Bela, she went over to the slums nearby, and she found a tailor one day before the store opening, because she came up to Nagesh and said that if we are truly trying to be of that standard, people will want alterations. We cannot tell them that you come back tomorrow and all that. We have to give them there and then. And Wahid Bhai, when he was once told that why have you not given the customers altered garments back promptly enough, his response was that nobody told me that they wanted it urgently, so I took my own sweet time doing it. But if anybody wants it promptly, I'll do it. And if I don't do it, I will give them a piece of chocolate to apologize on my behalf. And he became the legendary Wahid Bhai of Shopper Stop Andheri. So we have our own Advait Bhai with the chocolates. The first question is that which is India's largest, I wouldn't say retail chain, it might even qualify for that, but definitely quick service QSR chain. So quick service restaurants, which is India's largest? Yes, Sachin? Domino's, yes. Domino's is 800 stores, 806 stores at last count, which is basically twice the footprint of McDonald's in India. Okay. Couple of months ago, there was this news item that Pune has got its first 24-hour convenience shop. What's that shop called? 24 hours convenience store, has cafes. Sorry? No, not 7-Eleven. No, that's not the one. Aeromall, no. This is a convenience store, standalone convenience store. It's a North Indian based chain. No, it's not 24/7. It's called New Shop. It has launched in Magarpatta, and it's basically the first of its kind. And after opening for about 6 months, their license was revoked because the local retailers were opposing it. But finally, they've managed to open their doors once again. So you get basically restaurant-like food over there. You get an ATM. You get facilities like your ironing, dry cleaning, groceries, everything 24 hours. Okay, which is Pune's oldest supermarket? Okay, that was easy enough. So when was it opened? How old? Approximately. Not 1929, but close enough. 1911. So 1911 is when the original store on Moladina Road was purchased by Torabji Palonji Patel from an Englishman. And which is India's first departmental store? And no, it is not Shopper Stop. Though I'm sure Nagesh would defend it. Akbar Ali's, no. Akbar Ali's is Bombay's first department. Spencer's, that's right. Vijay sir is right. Spencer's opened in 1895, while Akbar Ali's opened in 1897. So Akbar Ali's can claim to be the first departmental store in Bombay, although I would love to get Nagesh's inputs on that, because I think it's a hotly contested topic in terms of which is the first departmental store in India. But Spencer's claims that their store in Annasalai in Madras opened way back in 1895. They claim also to be India's first, I think, hypermarket also. And which was the store whose founder and first director was Lokmanya Tilak? Yes, Ashay gets it. Bombay Store. So Bombay Store is not just a place to get overpriced things. It also has a very rich history. What started off as, I think, Swadeshi store. And its board of directors included, I think, Jawaharlal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, Tilak, and Ratanji Jamshedji Tata, if I'm not mistaken. So that was basically Bombay Store. And another one, which is a little more contemporary, which was the first Indian retail company to cross that elusive mark or threshold of annual revenues of 1 lakh crore rupees. 1 lakh crore rupees annual revenue. Big Bazaar? KB would have loved to hear that, unfortunately no. Reliance, that's right, yeah. Reliance Retail, way back in 2019. Wonderful. This one is really interesting, yeah. It's might be a little bit difficult, or maybe all of you guys know it and I didn't know it until yesterday. Which tech company is opening its first ever physical store outside the US and India this year? No. Tech company is opening its first ever physical retail store. No. It's Google. Google is opening its first ever physical store outside of the US in India this year. They have 5 stores, all of which are in the US, and basically these stores sell largely the Pixel range of smartphones, smartwatches, and then some of the other hardware products like the Google Nest, Google Home, and everything else. And the last one, this I think should be really easy. Be prepared to let go of all the chocolates. Which brand has launched a new retail format called Lightstyle? Those of us who came down from the German bakery chalk, Lightstyle. The format is called Lightstyle. We would have seen the hoarding over there. Yes, it's P&G, P and Gargill. Lightstyle, which is the first Gen Z aimed jewelry store. Yeah, so this is courtesy spending too much time in traffic at that roundabout. So that's it in terms of the book summary, and we move on to the main session. I would like to request Advait to take charge of the proceedings again. Thank you.
Normally, this is a time where I formally introduce the guest, but do you really need a formal introduction? Please join me in welcoming B.S. Nagesh. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nagesh, I have large number of questions to ask you, and I'm sure some of the audience would also have. But since Eklavya mentioned, and of course it's in the book, it's all about customer service. So, when you started this first modern retail outlet, why did this come in your mind first, that we need to be customer first, customer driven kind of thing? Because that was not the norm then. It was a seller's market.
So first of all, before I answer the question, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
And I was wondering when Eklavya will stop. If this guy goes on a television, my book will not sell a single copy. Were you a fly in the wall or on the wall when I was writing this book? Amazing. 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 If you had shown this talent in 2007, I would have had you. Well, I think the reason is that I keep saying that I was one of the most ignorant general managers or CEOs in an industry to start. I had no background on big retail. I had no background on apparel, fashion. So I was ignorant. And ignorant is a bliss. Okay, when I go to students, I talk to them and say, if anybody says, have you done your master's in ignorance, they'll laugh at it. But when you don't know and have the ability and decency to ask the question, that's the time when you start learning. Okay. So for me, every bit of learning that has happened in my career in retail happened from the customers. So we started with that. So anything that we wanted to do, I'll go to the customers. In fact, I used to stand outside the store more often than inside the store. And a lot of customers would say, yaar, har roz puchte ho, abhi to kab band karo tum. But that's the way we learned.
Yeah.
So until and unless now it is customer service, client service, and let's not forget, there's not a single business in the world which survives without a customer.
Yeah.
You may call them customer, client, or finally the money comes from there.
Yeah.
And if you look at the humanity, you're taking money from the customer to serve a customer. And retail is very unique because you're actually sitting in the community. So if you can't serve the community, you have no right to win or right to exist. I think that's how it started. But today it looks like a big gyan. That time it was pure ignorance.
Okay. But where did this thing for 50,000, where did that number come from?
This is the Indian mentality.
Okay.
You go to anybody who's a $100 million company and ask him what do you want, he said $1 billion company. 100 to $1 billion takes a lot of leap. Okay, you have somebody who's got a 100 square feet shop, kitna karna pड़ता 1,000 square feet. Indians, I think because of our, we have a beautiful way of adding zeros. Okay, I was running a chain of stores which was 500,000 square feet. And I keep saying that it was Pagalpal and Junoon. So 500 se 5,000 mein kya maza tha? So as a 30-year-old guy, I used to say 50,000. Honestly, we had no clue what 50,000 is. 50,000 is 50,000 square feet, more than an acre. Okay, but that time, ये सब थोड़ी था. They just करना है 50,000. There was no science behind it. It was just Pagalpal.
And why do you think Rahesh has hired you? Because like you said, you didn't have any experience which is relevant.
You have to ask that Mr. Gopal Raheja, of course, who's not there. I don't know what he saw in me that I went for interview. In fact, there's an anecdote. When I went for the interview, this is the first time I came to Bombay. Okay, I took a train and came to Mumbai, and I had no clue of Mumbai. So I went to my friend, classmate who did his MBA in finance, and his wife was a chartered accountant, and said, I come to Mumbai. I don't know what to ask for. So like that time, no computer, nothing, no Excel. They did some calculations and impressed me, and they said, you know what, if you are in Mumbai, ask for 10,000 rupees salary, ask for a car and driver, and admission for your daughter. Okay, if you get these three things, your life will be okay. So I went, I met Mr. Raheja. I don't think he asked any questions. 20 minutes. Then he sent me to the head of hotel division, Mr. Kannampilli. If some of you have heard about Fern Hotels is Kannampalli's, whose son is now running that place. He was supposed to be the marketing genius. So he sent me to him and then asked me to interview and whatever. I came back. He said, selected. I was myself shocked. One meeting, 20 minutes, 25 minutes selected. He asked me, what do you want? So with collars high, I said 10,000, car, driver, daughter, admission. He said, go ahead. I came back and told my friends, after this I'll never go and ask a chartered accountant what salary I should ask. But anyhow, life has been very different from then. But I honestly don't know. I think when I did the first interview of hiring a person, I hired the person because that person could sit in front of me for 20 minutes and smile. No questions asked.
Yeah, you had mentioned in the book.
I have mentioned this in the book. If a retailer can smile for 20 minutes, I mean, you can't teach this in any business school. You can't teach even training programs. Smile is something which comes from within.
Genuine smile.
Genuine smile. It comes from within.
Not
and you
the-
see, yeah.
Not the air hostess smile, welcome to Indigo.
A lot of air hostesses have good, genuine smile. Yeah? Probably you don't look at the right air hostesses.
I will now improve on that. But how important was customer service in the initial culture upbringing in Shoppers?
Oh, it was very important. It was very, very important. Like I said, first was ignorance, second was the belief which the customers will do, and third, there's something else also happened. I'm not sure whether I mentioned that in the book. Before starting the apparel business, I went around Mumbai to look at what all businesses we can start. We looked at multiple businesses, and we didn't do supermarket because we had to sell non-veg. We were sitting in a Jain community, so we couldn't do that. We couldn't do electronics because the retailers would sell that and ask for service, go to the brand. So before we started, I had decided that we will take responsibility for everything we sell. So when India said goods once sold will not be exchanged, Shoppers Stop first cash memo said we will be responsible for what we sell. Okay, so actually the idea was that you need to serve the customer the way you would like to be served in any shop. That was number two. Number two, how do you train your people? I was, like I said, I didn't come from a background of big retail. So I actually went to Narsimhanji, okay, Mr. Bhushan and Professor Saxena, who then became the Vice Chancellor.
Yeah.
They were there and I said, can you come and do a class? And they did a session for 2 days to the first 13 employees that we had. And that time they charged a bomb. But that's the only way to really do it. So if in any business, if the customer is the center of what you do, then you learn from him, you earn from him, and you return the service to him.
Now, you mentioned that you very often used to stand outside the shop. And I think in the book you've written that one of the things that you mentioned is the first point of contact for a customer is actually a security guard who's not your employee.
Yeah.
Now, how did that idea come that security guard also has to be trained on customer service?
See, you don't train people on customer service. I mean, if you can align the people on the purpose of the organization, then the service happens on its own. Okay, I have written a small piece on the book about my lift guy, and let me relate that to this. So if you talk to the security person and say your job is to control police, okay, he will do the policing.
Yeah.
If you're saying that you have to welcome but also ensure that the property is safeguarded, then his approach is very, very different.
True.
Okay. And if you look at it, this example I put it in the book, which is about our lift guy. Okay, we had a lift person, Parmar, and he was a disabled youth. He didn't have one hand. One day I entered the lift and said, Parmar, how are you? He's saying, sir, मैं तो ठीक हूँ, पर आज सेल ठीक नहीं है.
Oh.
You want me to use this?
Yes.
He says, मैं तो ठीक हूँ, पर आज सेल ठीक नहीं है. So I was quite shocked. I said, Parmar, how do you know the sale is not good? He said, sir, सब लोग सोचते हैं कि मैं लिफ्ट वाला हूँ, पर every time a person enters, I have a mental count. Every time he gets down into a floor, I have a count. Every time he comes back with the bag or without the bag, I have a count. He says, मैं आपको बोल सकता हूँ सर आज कितना सेल हुआ. Not in rupees or numbers.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, ask me, is the liftman allowed to do this? Is he supposed to do this? No. But this is where the ownership comes. He took ownership of this organization being at the lowest level. So I think if you are able to pass the ownership of whatever you are doing to the level that you are operating, things become very easy. Especially from a CEO's point of view, you can go for 6 months holiday, nothing will happen.
Yeah. Interesting point about ownership by employees. Now, there's an incident that you've narrated in the book about ownership by a customer regarding your brand, where I think she called you up or something saying that she saw two people from Shoppers Stop in uniform fighting on Andheri station.
Yeah, so let me go back to Eklavya's mention about the brand Shoppers Stop. I mean, a lot of people, at that time my agency was very upset because Shoppers Stop, 2 words, tongue twisting, everybody wants this small thing, lemon, apple, orange names because that's very easy. So I keep saying brand is not about the way you name it. Brand is the way you treat it and the way you build relationship. Okay, it's an outcome of a relationship, it's not an input. So, I mean, there have been multiple incidences. In the book, the incidents we have mentioned is about a lady who called me from Andheri station. That time there was no mobile. She took an effort to go to the station master, called me to say, you should come to Andheri station, 2 of your guys are fighting. So I said, but why should I come? They are fighting, let them fight. She said, Mr. Nagesh, they are fighting in your uniform. That's the ownership. So she said, because they are wearing your Shoppers Stop uniform, it is not 2 people fighting. These are 2 employees of Shoppers Stop carrying the brand logo on their shoulder fighting. So that is ownership. Okay, and I have multiple examples. Okay, I think there's one example I don't know I have mentioned there, and that's all about saying if we had a huge loss and we had to turn around the business and we couldn't see a outcome. At the end of 11 months, the team came and said, if we don't take our salaries for the month of March, we will turn profitable. And we have decided not to take the salaries, which also meant I should not take my salaries. And all of us had EMIs and things like that, but it was a great gesture from the leadership team. And I said, wait, let's write to our customers and tell them the dilemma that we're having. Maybe they'll help us out. I sent an email, we used to have white mail that to the first citizens and said we have messed up the last 1 year because of our tech implementation. Okay, and we would like to offer you a special offer, 100 rupee gift voucher, no question asked. Not in today's exchange for $1,000 and all. No questions asked, just come and exchange. And my board and everybody said if all of them come and exchange for 100 rupees, we will have much more losses. But just a feeling and a trust for the customers. We had 13% conversion of the vouchers at an average of 1100 rupees in 1995-96. Okay, and we turned around and we made 1 lakh profit.
Wow.
Okay, and all of us took salary home. Now, this is not a genius thinking, it is just your belief that your customers own you as much as you. And this is true. I mean, a lot of you sitting here still have a compassionate emotional attachment to some retailers that you go to irrespective of what is happening in the country. Is it because you get great service? No, it's an attachment. It's an association that you have with the brand. And that brand association is because of what the brand has done over generations. And to me, that is brand building, not spending $5 billion on a cricket match and saying I'm building a brand. No. I think to me, those are my learnings.
Now, when you say customer attachment is very important, that was okay, you were Mumbai based, Andheri SV Road was the flagship. Now, when you decided to move out of Mumbai, and those were pre-internet, pre-Google kind of days, pre-online digital marketing days, didn't you get worried that how do you transpose this customer affection to a city that you are...
Yes. The worry was not about customer attachment, but worry was saying, can I create one more Nagesh? Okay, and this is the dilemma I think every businessman has, when he wants to expand. And this is typically in the family business. If you go to jewelry business, this is no father wants to leave the gala. Itna cash aata, gin ke, sung ke, bada maza aata. They don't want to leave the gala. Okay, and that's not the case. I was not an owner sitting and cashing out at gala. So the issue was, how do you get the general manager of the store, and how do you ensure that the culture of the organization built over 4 years, 91 to 94, is transferred into the rest. So we took a big gamble. We recruited the Bangalore store staff almost 2 months before. That never happens. We booked 2 buses, loaded them into a bus, brought them to Mumbai. They stayed in Mumbai and worked in the Mumbai store along with the Mumbai staff. So that means for a period of 2 months we had double the staff. And whenever they would do something, the other guy said, "इस तरह से नहीं करते हम Shoppers Stop में." You know, so they had buddies. And that time there was no training manual that we could pass on. And training manuals can only send you written chapters. They can't send you the science and heart of customer service. And then we brought them back. It worked beautifully. And after that we moved out of practice for many years. At least 10, 20, 30, 40 people will go from one store to other store, work there before they actually come. And that's the only way you can do. Otherwise you can never have a common culture across the organization.
Sure.
And what Eklavya mentioned about the book, of the value book, that made a lot of difference. The value book we created not by writing the values, but we created by writing the manifestation of the values. Because values are statement written on the board behind a receptionist in most organizations that only the visitors see. In all other places, the employees enter from the back door. The employees don't see the value statement on the reception. But it's the manifestation of, say, what you do is a value. The other interesting thing that we also did was, as an annual appraisal, the appraisee has to write which is that value that she followed and which is the value that she found others following.
Okay.
So process of that 500 people talking of value, and every year at the end of the year, if you are going to be appraised and you have to bring down the value system, it happened.
Lovely.
So it took a lot of time and effort, but most of them were not written. It was all ingenuity. We said, "Kaise karenge, aise karenge," and that became a process.
Now, you know, for many things that you've already mentioned there in the book, Eklavya also mentioned, you were the first. Now, when you're first and pioneer, there is no benchmark, legacy, history, you know, no metrics. So, was it all 100% gut?
100%?
Gut feel?
I would say yes and no. I think the reason for that is none of us came from a background of retail. So, we had no baggage, absolutely no baggage. So, we didn't know what not to do, okay, or what to do. So, therefore, trial was there. Second is, as a nature, I'm a very risk prone. I love to take a lot of risk. Okay, and I keep saying कि मांगने में और करने में क्या जाता है? At the most you'll get a no, but at least ask for it. Same thing, I said try. At the most you'll fail, but if you don't try, how will you know it's a success or fail? So we did a lot of trial, and I think that's the way that it happened. Otherwise, if you're waiting for somebody to be first and you to second, you'll wait for the. Today, a lot of practices, like you said, which has been taken for granted, like Eklavya mentioned. Okay, I mean, it was a big struggle. You'll be shocked to know that we paid the air tickets and hotel accommodation for the JDA team from Singapore to come and stay and implement. But they said, India, we won't come. And there is no retail opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, so these were some of the struggles. Or, for example, we used to operate 6 days. You pay rent for 7 days and operate for 6 days. I mean, it's a huge loss of money. Okay, so every first practice that happened in retail in India was done by us, but it was a big struggle. But that benefited the whole industry.
But as the MD, you were allowed to take these decisions, trial and error. Your owners allowed.
Yes, you have to go and ask this question to Rahejas. Many times I myself wonder what made them do this. Okay, and therefore I keep telling people, when we have a value of trust, I say this value of trust does not come from me. Somebody gave an unknown person coming from a different city, 30 years old, and handed him the keys of one of the most valuable properties and said, do. And I don't know. What was the bond that we actually did. And there's a full chapter on failures.
Yeah.
Okay, they should have sacked me at least 5 times, but I've survived. So it's a lot of leadership lessons for owners and family businesses from there. It's never about how the CEO, okay, it's about how the family. Our chairman would talk and discuss things. If I have a better point of view than his son, I mean, he will say, shut up, listen to him. I mean, that kind of qualities you don't get. And this is how family businesses grow. And not only from there, after that, Inorbit Mall has a CEO, Mindspace has a CEO, Chalet Hotels has a CEO, and they have been able to build probably 100 times bigger empire than what we started off with, because they understood that trusting the right person and giving him chance to succeed or fail can help you build the business. And I think that's what happened.
Maybe you set the trend.
I don't know whether I set the trend, but definitely I would say that they learned from the example to say that a professional can be as committed, okay, and can have the ownership without owning shares. Because somewhere I think everybody believes that if you own shares, you're the owner. No. I mean, if you own shares, you're the shareholder. All shareholders are not owners. Okay, but there are a lot of owners who are not shareholders. Can you build that?
Yeah.
I think to me that is something, it didn't happen like that. But over a period of time, people thought I'm the owner. In fact, a lot of people called me in 2005 to say, Guy, you have become a billionaire. And then the DHRP said that Rahejas are the owners. But it's ownership.
So you never owned it? There were no ESOPs then?
They were. I mean, we created the first ESOP in the industry.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
okay. So how did that happen?
I think a time came when business required money. And Rahejas said that go and get your own money. So I went around and did a private placement. And that time a lot of mutual funds and guys like that came. And they asked these questions that do you have ESOPs? I didn't even know what an ESOP was. I mean that of course learned what ESOP is, why it is done. And in 1998-99 we issued the ESOPs. And 2005 we went public. So a lot of our leadership team at that point of time, including me, made some decent money.
Now, from 91 till 98-99, first 9 years, and then in 2004 when you went public, how did life change for you as an MD? Was there an additional extra pressure, quarterly QSQT kind of thing? Quarter se quarter tak?
No, I don't think so. See, most of the pressures we create for ourselves. Let me tell you, from 1991 till today, every year I have exhausted my holiday. Every year. Not 1 year I would have a single balance. Every time I took a holiday of 3 weeks, the sales went up. See, this is a problem that we have. As leaders, as CEOs, as general managers, we feel that we are indispensable. We don't allow anybody to get into our shoes. How the hell can anybody get into your shoes if you don't get out of the shoes?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that to me has been wonderful, wonderful. And not only there, if you look at Retail Association of India, which I started with competitors. A lot of people told me, how can you go and meet competitors and set up an association?
Yeah.
We started day one with the CEO. I started my trust 10 years back. I mean, I got Amisha, who's my co-founder and CEO. She was working as a sales girl with me in 1991. So, it's possible. You have to believe that somebody can do better job than you. If you think you are the best guy, then there's a challenge. So that helped me a lot. So never had the pressure. You would have a pressure of people asking questions, okay, and they're putting you on the block.
Yeah.
I mean, that is of course, it's like being on Republic TV show.
You done that?
No, I have not done that.
Now, just to go back to a term you used, how did you find more Nageshes?
No, so the problem is the moment you start saying I want more Nagesh, you start thinking that you have to clone people. It doesn't happen. I think you find people who are aligned to the Nagesh's purpose, and after some time it becomes their purpose. Okay, so if you go and look at our history of people's CEOs who are all around the country today, they all have done extremely well outside and inside. But as long as they were there, they were aligned to the purpose. And the purpose that we had, and it was not defined as statement like today's world you have, was very simple. Can we build confidence in our customers when they wear our clothes? It was not to say make them more fashionable and all. I said, and because a lot of people would come and say, you know, my first garment that I bought when I got my job was from Shoppers Stop. Because they felt if I buy from Shoppers Stop and wear and go, I'll be confident. That was not a statement we made for outside. Inside that was a statement.
Okay.
So aligning of the purpose is very, very critical. And I do a lot of sessions in colleges. Let me tell you, 99% of the students tell me they have not written a purpose statement for themselves. 99% of students. So if you're not written a purpose statement or you're not defined a purpose statement, what you want to do, I mean, whatever will come, you'll take it on just because you get more money. So some of these help. Now, why it helped, what was said, did somebody coach me? I didn't have consultants like you also that time. You never used to even come and talk to retailers that time.
No.
But it's a different thing. Yeah.
I did come and meet you. Okay, talking of consultants, you did hire expats, and that again was a very, very, unique.
It was unique also not because we hired expats. We realized that retail is a science more than the art. Retail has been used for generations as an art, emotions, compassion, customer service. But the moment you do more than one store and large store, it's a big science. And that science none of us understood, and there was no college teaching. and BTL was unknown. So we had to hire from outside. So we hired experts which we thought are not present in the country or not available.
Yeah.
They happened to be expats. But if that time we had Indians, then we would have taken them.
But at that point, for your size and scale, like Ekla mentioned, for a 100 crore company, 12 crore in ERP, that was a bold decision in terms of financials as well.
Every expat I hired, I paid him double my salary. Every senior manager whom we hired, for that year his salary was more than mine. For 35 years, my salary I have decided myself. Rajas have never told me what. And therefore, when you decide yourself, you can't give more, you always give less.
Yeah.
But why I'm telling you this is, one is what they have done. And second is, of course, the elder Raja told me once that you hire more competent people than yourself. And if you have to hire, don't hesitate to give anything. This was his guidance, not the numbers. It worked very beautifully. Worked very beautifully.
Okay. Now coming back to customer service, you talked of the liftman, security person, etc. But there are, some more interesting anecdotes in the book. Take us through that New Jersey example that you have. You start the story with you being a very number crunching person. So
let me add a little bit about our First Citizens program. Like Lavia mentioned about it, that 75% of our business comes from First Citizens. It was an accident because I used to stand outside and customers to tell me every day you're asking questions. I said, okay, I'll do a draw every day. So I used to take their name and number on a check, put it in a box, take a draw and give a 100 rupee gift voucher. They would love it. My secretary left me and the new secretary came and she said, there's a carton lying in your room with some small papers. What do I do with it? So I said, show me the papers, and I realized I had 40,000 chits, which means over the 5 years, all of us together have met 40,000 customers. I said, hey, these are all my first customers. Put it on a database, whatever I knew about database. And that became the First Citizens.
Wow.
And we started analyzing First Citizens data then. So starting from 40,000, today we have 11 million customers. Last quarter, 82% of the business came from them. I was in a global department store summit last week, and we are the highest loyalty member contribution department stores in the world.
Wow.
Okay, which is unbelievable that we have survived for so many years with this kind of So we used to do a lot of analysis. So once I was working on this, we used to sell that time fabric, not garment, fabric plus tailoring. So I was just analyzing that, and I told these guys, there is a set of Americans or whatever American passport holders who keep coming to us again and again and again. They are all from this New Jersey. So I was quite intrigued. Why should somebody from New Jersey come here? So then I started digging, and then I realized the story was in 1992 there was a riot, in Mumbai, and the city was closed. There was a customer who came from New Jersey and bought 1 lakh worth of fabric. We gave him 10% discount, and we committed to him that we will give you garments on December 3rd or 4th. On the day we were supposed to deliver, there was a riot and Mumbai was closed. And this guy took the flight and went away. And once he went there, he called my store managers. My store manager said, sir, don't worry, I will get it delivered. I mean, this store manager didn't even think how to deliver. Anyhow, he said to deliver. Then he tried to parcel this at FedEx. The law that time was you can't export a garment. You have to cut the buttons. It has to be unfinished to export.
Okay.
Now, you couldn't send that across. So this guy went to Air India, met one of the purser or crew guy, and said, you get these flight tickets free. Okay, I will give you one side fare. Can you go drop this to New Jersey and come back? Which means he flies down and comes back, he makes 10,000 bucks or whatever it is. So he actually got the whole parcel delivered to New Jersey, hand delivered from Mumbai. When this happened, I think that customer must have got, he went all around Gujarat, all brothers, sisters in US. If you go to India, shop at Shoppers Stop. And that's what happened. But Mr. Raymond spent 10,000 rupees. We gave 10,000 rupee discount. Okay, in fabric, you used to get only 20% discount. So we made zero money on that transaction.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned in the book that if Raymond would have come and asked me, I would have said no to it.
Yeah.
Okay, but he didn't even ask me. I got to know after 2-3 months that this guy has done this. But look at what happened to that. I mean, we must have earned millions of rupees because of what he did. So when I asked him, he said, sir, I had made a commitment. I mean, he was so blank on my face and he was looking at me saying, how the hell did you ask a question like this? I made a commitment and deliver it.
But how did people like Raymond get this empowerment?
Well, Ray just gave me empowerment, I gave them empowerment. Very simple. And I also have this, we call it philosophy or whatever. The moment we issue an appointment letter to employee, we trust him 100%. I put my signature on the appointment letter, anybody. So in our business, we used to say we trust you 100% or 0%. A lot of people tell me, family jaisa 99% trust kar sakte hai. Oh, 99% trust is equal to 1% mistrust. 1% mistrust is no trust. I mean, somebody like Raymond would have taken hundreds of wrong decisions and cost the company so much. I have taken hundreds of decisions and cost the company so much. Okay, but I have survived. So to me, I think there are few things for empowerment. One is you have to trust. Second is allow the person to try. Third is don't punish on failure. Okay, and fourth is trust that the guy will do it.
You did mention earlier that there were at least 4 or 5 time occasion where, ideally Rajesh should have thrown you out. There was a lot of public pressure, there was a bad press, especially about after JDA sort of kind of thing. You didn't ever feel of quitting?
I never felt like quitting. In fact, I was interviewed only once by one of the biggest firms, the chairman. He called me and he interviewed me, and 98, 99, no, 2001. Big job, double salary and all. I said, I'm not going to leave. He said, why? I said, 100 crore company, I took a decision to invest 12 crores, failed and lost 26 crores. If this would have happened in your company, what would you have done? He said, I would have sacked you. So that's the reason I won't join you, because they have not sacked me, they have kept me like that. It never happened. After that, the industry got to know that I don't leave, so nobody offered me a job. so that's...
And then when you did leave, what happened?
No, I didn't leave. I planned a succession. See, when I was 45, I went and told the board that I am stepping out of Shoppers Stop as managing director at the age of 50, 5 years later on.
But you also psyched your family because of this.
Psyched in the sense that I told my family, I mean, naturally wife will say, being a managing director's wife is different than being an ex-managing director's wife. Okay, or my 2 daughters, and my mother-in-law called me and said, step out after you're married to daughters, because I mean, what you will say, ex-managing director's daughters, thoda status hona chahiye. No, but my family was very supportive when I decided, and this came from my father's thinking and belief and philosophy, which I call it as 25 years of learning, 25 years of earning, and 25 years of returning. So I stepped out of all my role at the age of 50 and started Trust, and it's been a fabulous journey for me.
We'll come to the trust part, but before that, since you mentioned Retailers Association, why did you think of forming an association with your competitors when the industry was so nascent? And I think the first few years it didn't really pick up, and then you had...
Yeah, multiple attempts. Actually, I made 3 attempts and I couldn't just get them on. And finally, with Prakash Arya, the ex-CEO of Future Group, he joined me and we went and we got it together. I think there was a lot of people who said, you gone mad. Kishore Biani, Noel Tata, Piramal, getting all of them together and starting an association. I mean, my thing was that we will not grow as a country if we don't modernize the industry. Okay, and for everything I'm struggling. Let these 4 guys also join me in the struggle. So we all did that together. Today we are the smallest amongst all of them. If you look at it as a group, as a department store, we may be number 1. But as a chain of stores and all, they're far ahead of us.
Sure.
So I also strongly believe that if you grow the size of the pie, then the share of the pie is your capability. Okay, and that's something that in today's world it works, and therefore it also leads to saying you should really collaborate, because collaboration is only the way you can grow. Today we are collaborating. Today kids are collaborating on the social media without realizing that they are collaborating. अब हमारे ज़माने में तो अरेंज मैरिज होता था, अभी तो कोलैबोरेशन नेट पे हो रहा है. So look at what's happening in the world today. But that time I think it was also necessity, and my personal belief that if you have to grow, you have to take everybody along.
So what did you set right so that 3rd, 4th time it clicked?
No, it's just that I kept trying, and maybe by the 4th time people thought this guy will not leave us. Okay, he's after us. And I think genuinely people saw struggle, and they felt that if we are together, we'll be able to get some policies, and we should spear the country's modern retail. And it's happened. From that time, modern retail was 0. Today, modern retail is 17-18%. And this is going to be one of the largest industries. This is going to create the most dollar millionaires in this country. And you see what happens over the next 10 years.
But 30 years we've been hearing that, okay, modern retail is going to kill the mom and pops and, traditional retail. After 30 years, we are still, like you said, maybe 15 to 18%. So
I don't think they will kill.
That's the apprehension.
But they will shift the narrative of the traditional retailer. till 2 years back, I thought the retailer was still be able to exist. The quick commerce, the Zeptos and all, I think there is a challenge now. It is not the challenge of able to serve, it's the challenge of being unequal in terms of capital available and the risk and the strength to lose money and build it up, which is a challenge. So the second challenge is the average age of the Indian retail community is 55 to 60. They were all uneducated, 8th, 10th pass. The next generation, they have educated them. They don't want to come back into the business. So there is a problem of succession. Wherever the succession has happened, it's grown. Look at Bhikaji, look at Chitle Bandhu, look at all of them. Wherever they've grown, split, doubled, all that they have done. Wherever they don't have the second generation, there's been a problem. So the shift that's happening is from Kirana, you're becoming an optical shop. From Kirana, you're becoming a franchise of Louis Philippe, Biba, and so that kind of shift is happening. Because, and we studied this in part of train, there are three things that the next generation wants. They want English speaking business, they want air-conditioned space, and they want user computer. So if you look at it, Optimus tree is the one where all the three happens.
Yeah.
So all businesses where these three are there, I mean the second generation is taking, shops are getting converted into this. Salons, I mean look at what's happening. I mean we have less heads and more salons in this country.
Yeah.
So I don't know what will happen. But and people like you and me don't require. Yeah.
I've cut my hair, sir. Now, coming back to train, what exactly are you doing that? I mean, you know, way back in Shoppers Stop, you were one of the first ones to actually hire graduates. How did you convince graduates to join a dukaan? And now, how has that changed in the last 35 years?
We were able to sell our dreams. It was not easy. I tell you, when we opened Bangalore store, we couldn't get anybody. So we went and had a marriage hall. Bridgeta, my HR head, our operations head, Kumar, who was now the CEO of RAI, they all went and invited parents into a marriage hall. Imagine 500 people sitting like this and we are giving a lecture why their children should join retail and what can happen, and giving example of Nordstrom, Walmart and all that. It was not easy. It was not easy to, okay. But we also believe that if you have to build quality, you have to build pride, it has to come from there. And we were able to attract. We were able to attract graduate training. The first graduate training program in the country, ours, first management training program. Today you go look at the top 5-8 companies, CEOs are all ex-Shoppers Stop management training graduates. So I think these were things which really, really made a difference. And I think that's the way that we built it up.
So did it ever bother you that Shoppers Stop obviously was the famous poaching ground for other retailers?
It bothered us when we lost, but it helped us with the reputation that that person went and did. Today, I can with a lot of pride tell you that 99.99% people who have left us are still our brand ambassadors.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, you will hear them talking positive about the organization and the brand.
Lovely.
I'm saying 0.11% there are people.
Yeah, obviously. Now, you know, Oberoi's famously have a well-established formal alumni kind of program. Have you ever thought of that for Shoppers? Where Oberoi's...
Not formally, but
Okay.
informally there are a lot of groups.
Okay. But did it ever happen that large number of people sort of left like a team?
There is a big story around that. Yeah, we lost a full batch. Because that was the first time when pyramids came in, they took away almost 5-6 of our senior people. And
So for pyramid?
Yeah, it was a challenge. It was a challenge for us, but we doubled up and came out of it. And after that, I met Krish after many years. Krish was the CEO of Pyramid, then he became the CEO of Walmart. And he said one thing, he said, I thought by getting the leadership team, I'll get Shoppers Stop with them. But Shoppers Stop, they left behind.
Okay.
So I keep saying that the culture of the organization is a mix of energies which exist in the organization and the team. So you can't just pick people and recreate. If you ask me to recreate Shoppers, I can't recreate.
Okay. Even with the same team? Yeah, because circumstances have changed.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
Times have changed, beliefs have changed, customers have changed. I'm not as aligned to the current customer of the need, the way they look at it.
Sure. And you're going to tell us about Train.
Yeah, so I always felt that in India, the retail associate and around the world, okay, don't get the right kind of respect, pride. It's the lowest level of job around the world. You'll be surprised that 800 million people work in retail in the world out of the 8 billion. 9 to 10% people work in retail. So when I decided to step out at the age of 50, I said, I'll start something. Retail is what has given me everything. And this was a journey which I committed 25 years of my third quarter of my life. And we picked up 4 words for this. It was my savings. It was to start very small. First was in the research they said हम तो सोसाइटी में बोलते नहीं दुकानों में काम करते हैं, लड़की नहीं मिलती. Pride. Second statement was पढ़े लिखे नहीं है इसलिए इज्जत नहीं है, respect. Third was सोसाइटी के लिए काम करते हैं बट सोसाइटी हमको अपना नहीं मानती, inclusion. Fourth was पढ़े लिखे नहीं है, कोई पढ़ाता नहीं, आगे कैसे बढ़ेंगे, development. We just picked up these 4. I said we'll do this for the industry, for retail. That is what has given me. Amisha started a career with retail, and for each one we picked up a project. For Pride we said Diwali, Christmas, Eid, New Year, when the world celebrates, retail employees sitting in the shop whole night trying to pack up for the customers. Let's create a day. So 12th December we said it's going to be the Retail Employees Day, where the industry will celebrate the retail employees. Last year, December 2024, 20 million employees celebrated in 33 countries Retail Employees Day.
Wow.
It's a global phenomenon. We have not gone anywhere, not spent a rupee. It's just that people thought the idea is so brilliant. Last year, my wife, we were holidaying in Norway. I went to the department store there. It's a 180-year-old department store. And I met the CEO and he said, we were just wondering that 180 years we never thought of this. And you came and you had to tell us to celebrate in Norway, Oslo, my department store. But that's life. Second was respect. And we said, how do we get them respect? So we created an award called Customer Service Excellence. In fact, we were talking about Chronicle of Customer Service. Go on to our site. We have a magazine called I Just Did It. We publish once a year. The top 26 stories of customer service, we put it there. So for management students from customer service, we may have over 800 to 1,000 stories which are there on our site. The magazine is called I Just Did It. Yeah. So we created an award for Customer Service Excellence. It's the #1 award in the country for customer service. I realized that globally also the award exists.
Okay.
So we were able to influence the department store industry globally. So for the first time in the world of department store, 2015 Rome, 17 Toronto, 19 Tokyo, 21 Dubai, and this last week I was in Korea. We selected the best 3 associates in the world of department stores.
Wow.
I mean, it's again a global phenomenon. We don't get anything, we don't spend anything, but it's all. Third was inclusion, and this was a tough one. And we said there are 26 million persons with disability in this country. Yeah, I call it as PWD because that's the way government calls it. Some of you call it specially able, differently able, challenge, but government nomenclature is PWDs. And we have 56 million people who work in retail. I said, why can't we really bring this inclusion together? So we started a center in Hyderabad where we skilled 22 persons with disability who had orthopedic challenge, polio. I was the chairman of Hypercity there. Took all the 22, 16 got promoted in 3 months as cashiers. And I knew that we have caught something. So from 2011 till now, first year 22, next year 50, 100, 200, 400, 500. This year we skilled 8,250 persons with disabilities. 72% of them got jobs. And it's been a fabulous program. In industry now in our journey we have skilled 42,000 such youth. And the industry has about 30,000 people today in the industry working. You go to D-Mart, Vishal Mega Mart, Shoppers Stop, Lifestyle, you'll find deaf, you'll find polio-stricken boys and girls who are working there. It's been a fabulous journey for us. We have 103 centers across the country.
Wow.
So we are like a large school for disabled in this country. And in 2018-19, IKEA entered India and they said, we've heard about you, can you do something for girls from very poor marginalized communities? So we did a program for IKEA, 250 girls. They took 125, put them back into the stream. I was so impressed. I met a few parents of the girls who took the job. I was aghast at the life and what these girls do. I mean, our average salary of the parents last year was 1 lakh. Okay, an average salary that our kids have earned is 1,65,000.
Wow.
So it doubles the income and the family changes.
Yeah.
So we started another program for women called Trainer. We have done 16,000 girls. This year we did about 4,500. Our dream is in the next 10 years to impact 1 million lives. About 270,000 persons with disability and about 750,000 women. And we are on the path of that. So, yeah.
Wow.
This is what is. And the last one was development. So we're developing a lot of tools and a lot of things to help people to skill themselves as they grow, because they're not able to see growth.
So from day one of train, has the industry supported you?
Oh yes. I mean, it's not been easy. When we went, there was not a single person. There were only 3 companies: Costa Coffee, Cafe Coffee Day, KFC, who were taking people with disability. Today there are 500 corporates from Reliance to everybody, and 1,500 local retailers who are taking such people. So it's been a beautiful journey. Any journey doesn't happen because they know Nagesh. And we all have to. You have to let go your shoes to do all that. It's part of life.
Sure, sure. I'll take a pause here. If anybody from the audience has any question, yeah, okay. Rohit, I saw your hand first. If you can.
Did you know that this was culture and customer service is keeping this part of it? It could be deciding as well. Why would it be deceiving? Because I thought she's becoming my girlfriend, but she was just doing customer service. We used to stay next door on the weekend, college and take her on the bike to the shopping counter. The floor manager, she would help me do shopping. मुझे लगा girlfriend बन रही है. She was just doing the service at the side. But the question being, initially, all your stores were more like single building, large store in itself. How come from there it moved into a big mall and no single store? Like even was the first one in Pune, right?
See, that's the way the industry has moved. That's the way the customer has moved. We go to where customers are coming, okay, and the infrastructure required to serve the customer, okay, has become very different. I don't know about you, but 25 years back, probably you used to go on a two-wheeler and take your wife or girlfriend. Okay, now you must be having a car, your wife must be having a car. I mean, if I had to provide her parking for this in a single, it's not possible. A lot of things have changed. We don't have restaurants. Now you want to come for an outing and spend 3-4 hours. You spend 1 hour with us, we can't provide you lunch, dinner and 10 varieties of food. So I think this is the way things are going. And now you'll actually find with quick commerce, a lot of things are happening which is unbelievable. So we have actually followed the way the businesses and the consumers have moved, but we have not been able to capture every channel that the customer is using. We are not good on online, we are not there on quick commerce. We are still a department store, but we are slowly going premium and will remain a department store business.
On trade, is it only physical disabilities or
No, we have not been able to go into the intellectual part. See, because ours is not a skilling program, ours is a livelihood program. We only do this with a guarantee of helping them get a job. The industry from 15 years has not started taking speech and hearing impaired, started taking the persons with disabilities, orthopedic. We have done slow learners, but not even 1%. I mean, that's a challenge both from the skilling part of view and also a challenge from the recruitment part of view.
that's one domain I'm actively working towards a last one.
Wonderful.
Hello, sir.
Hi. Good evening.
Hello. And just want to say thank you to you and your team at Shopstop US, because most of my childhood clothes have been bought from there.
Wow.
Even when I left for US, that time I had gone to Shopstop to buy a new shirt to jeans की कुछ तो good लगाया वहाँ से interview हो some amount of success goes to you and your team.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
My question is, I've always been intrigued in the retail sector that today we take company as to be as granted. कि कुछ ले लिया and नहीं पता returns. How does returns work in the retail industry? How does it affect the bottom line? Some days are genuine. Most retailers are पहन लिया हो गया चलो return कर दिया.
So the customers who do that, पहन लिया, कर लिया, return कर दिया, are still a small percentage. The balanced persons who do that are basically because we have, as an industry, spoiled the way they shop. Okay. First question on returns. Returns kills. The average return in this country is 35%. So you send 100% and you take back 35%, and you pay both the sides. Some retailers are starting the return, but it is. If you look at all the e-commerce companies, Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, now Zepto, all of them, okay, they all have put 5, 7, 8, 10, 12 billion dollars and have lost money over and above what they have put. Okay, so they are still in the capital infusion stage. This business doesn't make money, and retail has to make money and cash flow. Retail is a business which is always cash flow and makes money, because that's the way the traders would remain. But this is new world, a lot of capital is coming into it. So it is not good for the industry to take returns.
So is there cushion applied to the prices so that the
There is no cushion applied because India has an MRP. Okay, more and more competition comes in, you will not be able to double the price. There are enough products where people sell online by doubling the price and giving 50%. But as an intelligent consumer, when you do a comparison, you can find out, that this somebody has jacked up the price to do that. But otherwise, no. So when you go for a sale in a shop or anywhere, it's a genuine sale. During the sale, the retailer does not make any money. The 45 days he's selling you, he's actually losing money. Across the verticals.
Alright, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Somebody can give the mic there. You have a question?
Hi Ramesh.
Hi.
Ramesh over here. Very interesting conversation. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I was thinking about the brand part of it when you were talking about. So you said that brand is not just a logo or color, words, shoppers, stop, like that. You were talking about relationship with the consumer and trust. Currently, what we see is exactly going in a different direction, where a brand loyalty is actually going in a different direction. You have Blinkit, you have all quick service and Flipkart and Amazon, and there is no differentiation in terms of brand as such. How do you see that playing out in terms of retail space?
So if you look at from 1991 till today, the one thing that has not changed is the three words that the consumers expect from retail. Convenience, value and experience. Even then and even today. At that point of time, we used to have segment of customers who would call as convenience seeker, value seeker, experience seeker. Today also if you look at it, all the businesses are being built on convenience, value and experience. Okay. What we realized is people who are building business on value, they are totally losing the loyalty. There is no loyalty when there is value. You give me a better price, I come to you, give a better price, I go to you. Okay. People who are building on convenience, there is huge competition coming because they are not adding any value. What they are doing is shifting customers. So the third part is the one which is actually helping brand. So if you go back and look at it, any business which is not able to build an experience around the product or service, okay, is not able to last long. And if that business has to do it on value or convenience, the amount of money it is putting is unimaginable to do that. And that I think is critical what's happening on the brand. And you see brands, look at what's happening to the QSR industry. The average restaurant in this country closes within 18 months or 19 months, average in the country, which means that they don't exist in spite of telling, want you to create experience. Without experience, you can't build a brand.
So, for example, when you study your shopper stuff, the differentiation is actually, you feel the differentiation going down somewhere, right? And there's a similar kind of experience with this kind of product. So, that's what is actually, in terms of retail space and malls and everything.
See, it's again based on the experience. If you're looking at a value creation and you go to shoppers, you will not get value out of pricing. Your value will be a pricing, experience, everything under one roof. Okay, that will be your value. If you're looking at anything else, your experience will be horrible. If you're going for convenience and you want to walk in and walk out in 10 minutes, department store is not the place for you. So if these are the relative experiences that you have, then Shoppers Stop and Lifestyle are not the place for you to shop. So you would not go there, and we will not be able to deliver the promise that we are actually making to you. And this is there because customer compares very differently. I mean, a customer told me once, 1999, your cashiering sucks. She was the only customer on the floor, and my cashier was the best cashier. He delivered an 8-garment cash memo in less than 2 minutes. I'm talking of 99, 2000 in Hyderabad. So I said, why are you saying? She said, you know what? 3,000 rupees he took 3.5 minutes. I have filled petrol worth 1,000 rupees. The guy took money in 30 seconds. So her comparison was the petrol bunk where he says, पैसा मैं दे रही हूँ, वो पैसा ले रहा है, उसको 30 सेकंड लगा, आपको 3 मिनट लगता है. So I think it's all become relative, and a lot of things are happening on daily basis. And you'll see more and more and more of this combination. And India is the only country where every new format of retail business has happened at the same time. If you go and look at the history of retail, retailers, shopping centers, department stores, malls, e-commerce, then quick commerce. Here, everything has happened together. So no vertical has had the time to mature, and the generation has become much more tech-savvy. So this is a very different environment that India has seen. It's not going to be easy to compete and survive in this country.
Can you give the mic to her? Yeah.
Hi. Thank you.
My question is that with such a rich legacy, they say that you shouldn't let success get you ahead and you never have. And I can see you speaking like that and incredibly humble. So how do you manage it?
I never thought I succeeded. You are telling me that I have succeeded. I mean, here I would like to quote my guru, Sadhguru. I do a lot of work for Isha Ashram. I conduct their annual programs and things like that. And he says your purpose in life should be so big that you die a failure. And he gives an example. If some of you have seen the Miracle of Mind app that he has launched, or you follow the Rally of River he did, or you save the soil movement, his life goal is to, this Miracle Mind that he has launched, he wants 4 billion people to download the app. And as of today, 3 million people have downloaded. So he says, I'm a failure. Although that app had 1 million download in 15 hours, which is the fastest download ever in the world, including Google, everything. So if you ask me when I said 1 million persons with disability and women will skill, if we skill 1 million, we would have not impacted 1%. So tell me, if you achieve 1% in life, are you a success or a failure? You are a failure. So it never hit us. That's it. I wanting to do better and better and better, and that gives you the chance. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening.
It was a treat listening to you. I have 2 questions. Number one, considering how paradigms are changing, what, as per you, are the key opportunities for retail? And do you see AI really changing the pace of retail, considering that retail is still a very new segment?
So the first is, now whoever comes to me and says, what is the business opportunity? I say, do something for senior citizens. This country, the amount of wealth sitting with people who are 50 plus is very high. But other than the airports where they give you a buggy if they see you white hair, you go to any shop, you go to a coffee shop, the youngsters, boys and girls sitting there, an old man enters, you are the last to be attended. Okay? I think there is a huge opportunity. See, this generation in India, 50 plus, their children have done extremely well. Half of them are all abroad. They are not taking money because they have no responsibilities and they build their house. So they have more cash than many of us. So I keep telling people, just as a discussion, he's not attending to me but attending to them. He's got 1/10 of the money that I'm carrying in my pocket. So I think there's a huge opportunity to look at 50 plus. AI will bring in tremendous change in the way you operate the business. Okay, but I don't think it will bring the change in the way you execute the business. So if I am the person serving you, you'll find me becoming efficient and better and better. Okay, but you will still love to have me serve you using AI as a tool. Okay, and I think we have seen this. For the first 5 years or 4 years after COVID, all of us were in a very bad shape because we thought online hai, mar jayenge. Now if you go back to the malls, it's come back. All brick and mortar retail is growing. I was in South Korea, if some of you have gone there, I mean, you go to a beauty shop, you can't enter. I mean, the amount of beauty products which people are buying is amazing. Same thing is happening around the world. So I would say that the moment if somebody thinks AI will change, then you also will have to get a chip installed here. Okay, but to me, human heart and mind is not going to work on that. But if I'm inefficient, you will not accept me at all.
Hey, sir.
Hi.
It was really pleasure hearing you, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences because that has given us great learning today.
Thank you.
Just 2 questions, sir. One is, do you find some mistakes which are happening right now in the retail industry? And if so, what are those? And if you get a chance to correct them, what would they be?
The whole retail industry is forecasting wrong their business. It's only because of the growth that we all believe. India is growing by 6.2%, we will grow by this percentage. There is nowhere in the world the kind of discounting that's happened in India. During my time, we used to discount between 20 to 30 days a year. 85% of my sale used to be full price sale or MRP, 15% to be. Today, 55% of sale is on full price, 45% is on discounting, which means 45%.
For this.
Yes, it is. So you will find that out of all the retailers who are listed or whatever, hardly 10% of them make money. 3%, 2%, that. Return on capital is 12%, 14%, you would want 20%, 25%. Okay, but because it is growth and India is a consumption-led country, okay, we will continue to grow on consumption. So retail will be a biggest winner over the next 5-10 years. Which model will win, which way the customer will shift, we don't know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, last last three questions maybe, yeah.
Actually, sir, I've done my summer internship in Shoppers Stop.
Wow.
This was in 2008. 2 months I was there. I was working with customer service agents there, associates. One thing I just want to share, the pride that the customer associates had, that you use the customer associate with your name, that was immense. And one thing was, there was I don't know, it was a rumor or truth. They had this notion that there would be a secret customer who would come. And I had this question for long period of, is it true or is it just a rumor?
It's true. It's true. It's called a mystery shopper scheme.
Yeah.
Okay, mystery shoppers is a much more formalized way of doing things. But that time we used to have mystery shoppers in a slightly different way. We were small, we were just 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stores. We could talk to the customers. We could actually ask them for reflection and feedback. But mystery shopper is a very formal way. There are businesses which do mystery shopping. It's true. Customer care associate, yes, we are the only company in the world, which has one designation from chairman to the bottom. Number one. Number two is, for whatever reason, I patented this. Okay, so nobody else in the world has ever taken the same designation. People say customer sales executive, but nobody takes customer care.
Exactly.
Okay, the word care is very, very critical. So, fortunate.
Lovely. Praful?
Hi.
Hello, I'm Praful Talira. What is the reason, what is it that Reliance, a giant like Reliance, saw in retail that they entered retail? From your perspective?
Consumption, size and scale, and value. I would say first is consumption. If you look at they would want to be in a business which is scalable, which can change the way Indians think, whether it is on geo, whether it's on oil, or whether it is this. This actually fitted. Second is, if you look at across the world, amongst the top 5 largest industry, you will find a retailer. I mean, if you look at Zara in Europe, if you look at Louis Vuitton, if you look at Walmart, if you look at Amazon, everywhere, every country, amongst the top 5, there's a retailer, because consumption. So I think the biggest thing they saw is consumption. And second is, they had the money to invest. I mean, nowhere in the world has any retailer, including Walmart, which is $700 billion, opened 8 formats together and opened 20,000 stores in 15 years. 20,000 stores. So you have to give them a lot of credit to what they have done. But it's not easy business. It is, yeah.
Reliance Retail is now, I think, 3,15,000 crore turnover. All the brands put together. Last question from the audience, yeah.
Vineet sir,
Hi.
we are building a retail chain into agriculture for farmers actually. So a lot of
Just hold the mic.
startups are going into tier 2 and 3. So what are your thoughts on that?
Fabulous. Fabulous. See, I think something here you should learn from the Tata Group Titan. Okay, so a lot of people say, how is it that their models are so successful? I think their strategy is very, very, very simple. Wherever a business is in the hands of few unorganized, and you can shift from unorganized to organized, it succeeds. Watches, opticians, jewelry, sarees. Look at this. It says so simple. There's huge amount of money spent with agriculture. Okay, it's still not in the formal hand. And formal brings you scale and also brings you efficiency and productivity. I think it's a great place to be there. It's a great opportunity. Okay, you're the only people that India is the most fragmented landowner ownership in the world. So any part of the world, if you're dealing with 10 farmers, here you're dealing with 10,000 farmers. That's a complexity.
Okay, since you raised your hand, really last question from the audience, yeah.
Shoppers Stop.
Okay. So,
I just want to offer gratitude because what you have created. I left Shoppers Stop in 2013 after handling the largest store. But a couple of years back, I was just hired because I had worked in Shoppers Stop.
Wow.
So that kind of, we are still beneficiary of whatever you have created, the pride and the brand. So thank you.
Lovely. So one last question, because he's from Shopper Stop. Now, if Shopper Stop is the gold standard on customer service, in your view, in India, who comes closest?
Again, see this, ये सब आपका हाथ वहाँ जा रहा है इसलिए आप it's very relative. It's on the minds of the consumers. I'm sure that a lot of people here who must have had not so good experience in shoppers because they've had a relatively better experience.
But that's 0.001%, like you said.
No,
So
I'm saying from their point of view,
Okay.
I don't know. No, but I am. Okay, but if I look at it, I would say Tanishq. Okay, fabulous service. I would say. I would say in the restaurant business, if you look at the QSR of restaurants, the people who do this Rajasthani thalis, okay, there are lots of brands.
yeah.
Fabulous, sir. Okay, you can't beat them on the turnaround.
Satkar in Mumbai.
There are lots of them
Yeah.
all across the country. I think that, see, wherever we are able to draw the generational value of Atithi Devo Bhava, okay, solid service, even today it exists. It's not that it doesn't exist. Airlines, I don't know. I mean, if some of you please get a chance, read the last chapter of my book on customer service, which I personally experienced between a hotel and an airline and a taxi driver. I won't tell the story because एक किताब तो लिखने से
Yeah, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, B.S. Nagesh. So, just 1 more minute. Rishikesh, where is he? Yeah. So Nagesh, this is Rishikesh Lonkar. He's Pune-based perfumery. So he has been supporting us, and he's So since this is a book-based event, something from all of us here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And then we have one. 2007.
Do you call the guests again and again?
You're most welcome, sir. So thank you once again for this wonderful full house audience. And something from IMDR, Dr. Shikha. So many thanks to Dr. Shikha Jain, Dr. Sanmat from IMDR for hosting us in this lovely auditorium. Big hand to them. And of course, thanks to Rohan Builders who have been also supporting us for the last couple of years. Thank you. Our next session is on 18th of July. He has given us a lot of ideas in terms of what entrepreneurs can do. So it's about startups from Bharat. So we have a book written by Aditya Arora, who's sort of profiled large number of rural-based kind of startups. So we have a couple of 3 founders from startup founders. It's going to be in Bhau Institute on 18th of July. So hope to see you, many of you there. Thank you, good evening, and it's still the Thursday. Don't remember, tomorrow is a Friday. It's still a working day. Thank you so much.